Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3 teenagers. Today, my guest will be talking about optimizing health through alternative health modalities. And I know that you really need that strong physical foundation to work on your mental health and your spiritual growth, whether it's overcoming anxiety and depression, losing weight, or detoxing your body in the proper way, and even increasing your level of frequency in life. You need that strong physical foundation of health in order to gain the willpower to make the bigger changes in life. If you're new to following me, I specialize in helping you get there. You can find my health articles, my cutting-edge natural supplements, devices, and protocols at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Accelerated Health Products is the sponsor of the show. So as you support my website, I'm able to bring you more cutting-edge content and guests to this show. First, I want to talk about some tools that you can use to help with your mental health, physical health, and truly live your best life. The goal is to improve your mitochondrial health and increase energy at the cellular level so the neurons are firing, leading to an open mind and growth mindset. The first one is accelerated silver. This is the reason my business started with the health of my son in such a dark place when he was diagnosed with leukemia. Accelerated scalar silver is enhancing your immune system's ability to devitalize those foreign pathogens, including viruses, bacteria, fungus, and parasites. And if your immune system is bombarded with fighting foreign pathogens, it can't simultaneously engage in anti-aging mechanisms or autoimmune issues. And by keeping that immune system strong, the body engages in anti-inflammatory processes, leading to optimal health. And it is enhanced with scalar frequencies unlike any other silver product out there. This is to increase its efficacy, and truly nothing compares. Next is the accelerated keto. Now, I want to be clear, you do not have to follow a high-fat ketogenic diet for this supplement to work for you. This flips you into fat-burning mode within 30 minutes, and your body taps into its own fat stores for energy, and you truly feel great physically and mentally, and you feel like, oh my gosh, I can do this now. When the body's running on the ketones provided by the accelerated keto, combined with intermittent fasting and a low-carb, high wild protein diet, instead of utilizing glucose for energy, ATP production increases significantly in the mitochondria, and mitochondrial biogenesis is optimized. What's different about accelerated keto? It has other ingredients in it that break down the saturated fats into unsaturated fats. And these unsaturated fats are easier for the body to utilize and easier for the body to convert into ketones. So when you're fasting, the body fat's more readily available to burn for energy, which increases ketones and autophagy, which is the recycling and cleaning up of your blood and your body. It's like Pac-Man going in and cleaning out all the junk. We need that junk out. We need the inflammation down. And the accelerated keto helps this. And because of this property, it's also able to defat the liver as well. Fatty liver disease is the fastest growing disease in the United States, and it doesn't have to just be coming from alcohol. It's well known that the liver is responsible for converting fat into ketones. So as we defat the liver, we're able to burn our fat even better and more efficiently. And it's also known that the liver function across the board is working better. Your thyroid works better. It increases your metabolism, mitochondria, and energy, because It's in the liver that the thyroid hormones are converting from the inactive T4 to the active T3. Now remember, 4 and 3 stand for molecules of iodine, which I'm going to get to in a minute. Accelerated keto also has HMB. HMB prevents muscle wasting. So there you go. And there's 2 other ingredients in it, mucal and tricatu, that help heat up the digestive fire, help the absorption of the ketones, and just start getting things going. Next, as I mentioned, the importance of iodine when it comes to our thyroid health, acceleradine is the only iodine that is truly worth using. Sufficient iodine in all tissues help produce 18 times more ATP in the cellular energy, or at the cellular level. And acceleradine is the only iodine that's 100% bioavailable because it is monoatomic. Most iodines out there are coming from radioactive sources or toxic sources full of heavy metals. Acceleradine isn't. And most iodine supplements also are diatomic, which means that the body has to use a lot of expensive energy to break the particles apart. And then it only has 10 to 20% absorption. So the acceleradine is also able to help reverse the damage to the DNA by the mRNA, graphene oxide, and spike proteins. It is something that every single human on Earth needs to know about. Next is the accelerated ancient salt, which goes along with the acceleradine. It has over 62 minerals in it. It is scalar enhanced as well. It has a negative charge that helps pull out the positively charged toxins, parasites, and undigested fats. And because of that scalar frequency, it essentially can help reorganize the DNA. But what I love about it, it helps with nausea. You put it on your tongue if you are wanting to increase your intermittent fasting time. It helps digest fats, and it tastes so good. I use nothing else on my food. Helps stimulate digestion as well. Next are some stem cell patches that really enhance that ATP production. The energy enhancer patch, these increase the ATP production in the mitochondria, increase heart rate variability, improve the bioelectrical measurement or phase angle of the cell walls, reduces inflammation, and increases endurance. I joke with my family that I wake up like a zombie, I put my patches on, and then I'm an animal in my garage doing my workout. And it really just turns things on, especially when you're combining it with the accelerated keto and the acceleradine. That amount of ATP production shoots through the roof. And then you put on the X49 patch, which is known for increasing energy, recovery after exercise, improving that cardiovascular function. But what I love, it's burning the belly fat, it's increasing muscle tone, which is really difficult to keep as you get older, especially us women after the age of 40. It's helping with bone density, which is super important to me as I have osteoporosis in my family, and it helps with hair growth. Do you know how many women and men have come up to me in the last 6 months talking about losing hair because of what's going on right now? And they're seeing their hair come back. It's super exciting. And you wear that with the X39 patch, which resets over 4,000 genes in your body to a younger state. So essentially your body and your cells are acting as if they were their 20-year-old self. I truly have the energy of a 20-year-old and better than my version of a 20-year-old. I feel better than I did back in my 20s. I have no pain, my brain, my body, it's feeling awesome. And I'm a mom of 3, I'm a wife, and I'm running my own business. And I truly do have energy till I go to bed and put my head on the pillow. So I give more tips and tools through my free group coaching. You can join with the link below on Telegram or email me through my website, Accelerated Health Products. And the difference between me and any other group coach is I provide the most cutting edge frequency enhanced supplements that work synergistically with each other, and your body does not experience those flu-like symptoms. You truly feel great day one. Leave a comment below if you're interested, or check it out on the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. Now to the good stuff. I have the chills with my guest on. Something that you don't know is this man was the guy that got me started in podcasting, as he had me on his show. Justin Stellman is the host of Extreme Health Radio and began his health journey in 2003 as a result of his mom's cancer diagnosis in 1995. He's an avid researcher, connector, and enjoys surfing, gardening, medical freedom, as well as spending time with his wonderful wife and two adorable twin 4-year-olds. Welcome, Justin. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, I'm doing so great. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Justin, it's like bringing back time. We're back in time. I can't remember how long ago it was, but when I first met you, it was like, I don't think you realize the impact you've had on my life because of that day. It truly shot me into this world of podcasting where I thought, I can talk to more than one person at a time and share my knowledge and have God use me in a way that he only knows the limits. I don't. So I want to start out thanking you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's really exciting because I'd rather have everyone have a podcast and not watch the mainstream news.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't that sound great? I would love that.
Yeah. I talked to my dad this morning and he was not feeling so hot, and he's one that has a hard time listening to all the things that I tell him to do. So he's sick. And he said, I think I'm going to turn on the news. The financial markets were really bad about an hour ago, but they're doing better. I go, why are you watching the news? I mean, honestly, you just said it. So anyways, well, before we get going, I want you to share with the audience your story on your mom's cancer diagnosis and how you got into the business.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So my mom was diagnosed in 95. And so I was 21 maybe then. So it kind of caught our family out of nowhere, just totally out of the blue. And she was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the doctors gave her less than a 10% chance of survival. And she started researching, and she actually went down to the Gerson Clinic. She did a macrobiotic session down in San Diego, and she did a lot of research, but I think her doctors sort of coerced her to go to the City of Hope. And so she went to the City of Hope, and she had a bone marrow transplant. She had chemotherapy, multiple rounds, radiation. And I just watched my mom. At the time, she was like 55. I watched her age 20 years in like 6 months. She couldn't get off the couch. She couldn't walk. She lost all of her hair, obviously. She just got old and hunched over, and it was like, what is going on with this, right? But fortunately, she made it through. Like, I cannot believe that. She's still alive today. She's 82, I think. Wow. Doing great. And if anyone should be championing the cause of mainstream allopathic medical model, it would be me. But I saw what she went through, and I thought there had to be another way. Like, this is just barbaric, right? Just seeing what's happening to her, there has to be a better way. And how come the doctors don't know anything about why people are getting cancer? Like, I asked the doctor, and he said, well, I think it's probably because the testing is getting a little bit better these days. And I could just tell, I'm 21, and I could just tell this guy has no idea what he's talking about. He's just making something up, So that just kind of scratched the itch for me. And at that time, I knew that there's some factor that was causing this. And I just knew that in the back of my mind. And I always like to work out, and I still do, but I was never really good at my diet. Like, I could eat like a donut and some pizza and go work out, no problem. But the thought of changing my diet was just like, that was never going to happen. So fast forward about 8 years, a friend of mine gave me a book called Fit for Life. And I read that book, and the world opened up to me, because in that book, he talks about food combining. He talks about cleansing and detox. He talks about enzymes and enzyme therapy and what that does. And I just realized, and then he applied that to certain diseases, and one of them was cancer. And I thought, how come the doctors don't know this? Like the doctors know nothing about, shouldn't people want to know? And so I tried to tell people, and no one wanted to listen. I tried to tell doctors, my mom's doctors, and they just were completely shut off. And I was like, wow, if there's a way to prevent cancer and there's treatments for it, what's all this chemo about, right? And then on top of that, why don't the doctors want to know anything about it? And then that made me think, okay, maybe there's a deeper sort of something behind the scenes here. So that led me down the medical allopathic model and start doing research on the Rockefeller Foundation and how that was involved and the whole, start the inception of the medical model industry and how it is treated as an industry. And then, so that got me down the rabbit trail of just going down all these different aspects. And nutrition was one of them. And then I learned about the juice man. Remember Jay Cordage?
Mm-hmm.
He was so cool, and he was just juicing, and he reversed his colon cancer, or I forget what kind of cancer, kidney cancer, I think he might have had. And I realized, wow, there's treatments to diseases, chronic degenerative diseases that the medical industry just doesn't know anything about. And then when I realized that, it was just like the world was my oyster. I just started researching and researching. I found David Wolfe, I found raw food, and I found enzymes and cleansing and detox. And it just never ceased to amaze me how deep the rabbit trail goes. And everything starts to make sense when you understand the toxicities of how we live and how that is impacting our genetic expression and the growth of cancer cells and stuff. And so that's kind of how I got started. And I've just kind of been going since 2003 ever since.
You just touched on so many things. And I have a friend whose father was diagnosed with cancer, and I've been listening to what the doctors have been telling him and all of that. Not one mention of diet. And he's going to be treated with some sort of chemo. And it just shows you. And then my story is very similar with my son's diagnosis with leukemia. And when that happened, no one told me to change his diet except for my alternative practitioner mentor, who said we need to get him off processed foods, and this is what we're doing. And of course, we use the accelerated silver. But now, fast forward 10 years, he was a record holder in high school for rowing. All three of my kids never got on antibiotics going through elementary school, junior high, and high school. Their friends were sick. Their friends were throwing up on them. Because of our supplements, because of the clean eating, they really didn't get sick. And in the last year, we all tested positive for COVID at some point. Not one of us had a symptom. So we've cleared. And so what you're saying is 1,000% true, but it gets you down that rabbit hole of, okay, so if this is true, what else is true? And let's keep going with this and the disease prevention. So what I want to talk about is there's so many people that come on my show that are in alternative medicine, and they have their modalities, but you call it alternative medicine, because there's some things that the alternative medicine world is promoting that's even wrong. And it's hard to know what we can trust. So I want to discuss what your top absolutes are when it comes to disease prevention.
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do. I think like what you touched on at the beginning, which was mitochondrial function and ATP production. And I think it really comes down to that, because when you can make cellular energy and you can clear the exhaust, the oxidation that happens as a result of that, and if you have enough of that going on, you just will not get sick. Like that, the primary cause of all disease is the inability to make energy in the mitochondria, and complex 4 happens in cytochrome C oxidase. This is where you create ATP. And if you can do that and clear the exhaust, you have the energy to deal with all of life's stressors. So I think it comes down to like a metabolic approach when it comes to making the energy that you need to make, and then clearing the exhaust and getting rid of the toxins and avoiding the things that are stressing you out, that are preventing you from making that energy. So energy production is really the name of the game when it comes to all of this. And so there are tons of things from a lifestyle, environmental kind of aspect that prevent the production of ATP. And one of the major things I'm learning in the last probably 5 years is the role of iron. iron is really one of those things where not a lot of people talk about, but the excess iron is causing metabolic rust inside of our body. So if you look out at like some metal outside, you'll see if it's exposed to oxygen, it's going to get rusty over time. And that rust is happening inside our organs, our liver, our colon, our intestines, our thyroid, all of this. And it's because of the iron fortification project. Thank you, government. So since 1941, they've been adding iron filings into our food. It's ferrous iron, and that iron is metabolically causes metabolic dysregulation. And so what happens is that we're only supposed to be consuming about 1 milligram of iron per day. That's all our body needs. And the other 24 milligrams should be recycled via the reticuloendothelial system. So that system is based on a series of enzymes and different minerals to be able to keep iron in flow. So iron's supposed to be bound to hemoglobin to deliver oxygen, then to go to the mitochondria, and then ultimately end up in the bone marrow to make new red blood cells or whatever else it needs to make. Instead, the iron that we're consuming is not being moved throughout the body, and it's storing in your liver. So a lot of people say, I've got fatty liver disease, I've got liver cancer, I've got liver whatever else. It's really an excess of iron that's stored in your liver. Because the food that we eat, sometimes people, I think I was reading something recently, the average person consumes at least, I think 20 or more milligrams of iron a day.
Wow.
And by doing that, you're causing massive amounts of oxidation because unfortunately we have to breathe oxygen. So oxygen combined with iron creates what they call the Fenton reaction. And that is inside our body, it's metabolic rust. It's a loss of electrons, it's oxidation, it's inflammatory, and it causes free radical damage and reactive oxygen species and all these things, which is why we have to do so much work on doing antioxidants, because we're loaded with iron and we breathe oxygen. So it's really sad that they've been adding these iron filings to our food. If you go on YouTube and do a search like iron in cereal, I think it is, or something like that, or I think it's heavy metal cereal, you'll find a video showing this, and it's killing us. And that in my belief is what's causing a lot of the metabolic dysregulation and energy production issues people are having, because they're loaded up with way too much iron.
So are you talking about all foods, vegetables, and meat products as well, or is it just processed packaged foods that you're talking about?
Well, it's almost all processed packaged food. And unfortunately, like a lot of the vegan kinds of food has lots of iron in it, because the acid rain in the hydrological cycle is changing the pH of the soil, which is liberating way too much iron from the soil into our food and vegetables and things like that. So there's actually iron in, like I was a raw food vegan for 7 years. And so I was just loading up on iron the whole time. And so it seems to be ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's in the water we drink, especially well water. It's just in most foods, and especially, like I was watching something today in coconut milk, 17 grams of iron in a popular brand of coconut milk.
Wow.
Like, why?
So it's not necessarily one specific type of iron. It's whether you're getting it in your foods or you're getting it in an iron supplement. All iron's equal. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's my understanding there's multiple forms of iron. I know they're adding 9 different types of iron to our food system through the iron fortification project, and all 9 of those types are carcinogenic, have been classified as carcinogenic. And I know there's the ferrous form of iron and the ferric form of iron, and there's things that you can do to lower your iron absorption, and get that reticuloendothelial system, RES system in your body working, so that iron's allowed to get rid of this, get out of the cell, and to go be delivered via transferrin and all this kind of stuff. But and there's certain substances like methylene blue will actually convert the ferrous iron to ferric iron, which is a little bit less dangerous. But it's easier to remember that there's 9 different types of iron added to our food supply, all of which are carcinogenic. So we're overloaded with iron, and the only way to get rid of iron is through blood loss. That's it. Unfortunately. So that's why I made blood donation I do that every 2 months now. Because with one 15-minute blood donation, you could get rid of around 250 milligrams of iron, which is amazing because, if you're, I don't know how much you would get. If you're the average person, that's only maybe 10 days worth of eating, right? If you're eating 20 milligrams a day or 25 days or whatever it is. So it's really important to be cognizant of the amount of iron we're consuming, in any food we eat. So it's
this is a really uplifting conversation. So you need to give us a little hope other than blood donation. I understand that's the best way. Sauna therapy, detoxification in any other way? Is there any other binding material that can carry the iron out of the body on a daily basis?
Yeah, there's some things that you could do that are really good, like lactoferrin, which can be found in colostrum or dairy. That has a really high iron binding protein quality to it. There's other things that you can do. Retinol is really important as well. Sauna therapy does get rid of some iron, which is good. And there's a lot of iron chelators. I think there's one called IP6, which I think is I forget what exactly that is, but there's also a supplement that I came across recently that's an iron chelator as well. I forget the name of it, but there's lots of iron chelators. Charcoal is another one. And so I think that the mothership with the offloading of iron is going to be blood donation,
Right.
but activating the system in your body that keeps iron flowing, that's a whole separate part of what you want, because you want to pull that iron out of your liver, out of your brain, which is causing dementia, brain cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. All of this stuff has an iron relationship to it. And so you want to open those enzymes up, and copper and retinol seem to be what allow for that to happen. So
okay, and I want to get into copper, but we're going to take a short commercial break real quick, and we'll come right back with Justin Stellman. Welcome back to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sara Banta, the owner of Accelerated Health Products. And today we have Justin Stellman talking all things disease prevention. Justin, we were talking about iron overload, and you mentioned in the end copper. And this is something a lot of people aren't talking about. But can you tell us a little bit more about the importance of copper in the body?
yeah, so I have a basic understanding of it through the guests of our show and the research we've done, but all I've ever heard was that copper is toxic. I got my HTMA back, and my I'm copper overloaded. But when you start to understand what copper does inside the body, it's amazing. I share a lot of this on our Instagram stories and highlights. But copper regulates iron. It's the only other metal that will do that. And so what happens is that there's a guest on our show a while back talking about the amount of iron we have in our body. And if you were to sort of flatten it out and spread it out over a specified area, it would equal about an entire football field of iron inside of our body that's stuck in our tissues and in our blood. And so the amount of copper that we have to regulate that equals about 3 pennies worth. And so that's not a lot of copper that we have to regulate all of that iron. It's the only metal that helps to turn down the oxidative impact of iron overload in the body. And it does everything. We did an entire show about how it regulates and runs your entire immune system. It's incredible in terms of what it can do. It donates electrons. It's an electron donor. It has impacts on just about every single disease that you have. And when you understand that, if you were like 5 years ago, if you were to tell me that, I would just say, oh, wow, interesting that it does that. But when you understand how it regulates iron and how iron is implicated in every disease known to man, then it starts to make sense. Okay, copper is the only metal to mitigate or turn off the oxidative stress caused by iron overload. So it makes sense that it would do all the things that I'm reading about that it does. And so it's just incredible. Like one thing it does, for example, is it activates a specific enzyme called ferroportin. And ferroportin is a iron dependent enzyme that allows iron to get out of the cell. So if you don't have enough ferroportin, then iron gets in the cell and gets stuck in the cell, causing oxidative damage, reactive oxygen species. Then that cell doesn't live very long. It doesn't live the entire life it's supposed to, and it dies prematurely, and we die prematurely as a result. So ferroportin is required to let iron get out of the cell. I think there's like 5 or 6 ways iron can get into the cell, but only one way out. And that one way is through ferroportin, and copper activates the opening of ferroportin. So if you don't have enough copper, iron can't get out of the cell so that it can go and be in circulation. And so that's one thing, but it does so many other things. It donates electrons. It helps reduce oxidation. It helps the creation of energy. Do you guys have a copper? You should have an accelerated copper supplement. That would be amazing.
We used to, and we've thought about it. As soon as we, it's very expensive to make. So budget wise, but it is on our list. Believe me, we've talked about it. We've got the silver, we've got the gold. We used to have platinum. That's also expensive to make, but we will, we will do the copper. It's in the future.
That would be amazing. Yeah, that would be great. That'd be great. Yeah. So there's on our Instagram stories, I have a highlight of copper and all the research studies, but it just goes on and on and on. And so it's been implicated in Alzheimer's disease, at least a lack thereof has been implicated in Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, digestive issues, fatty liver disease. Just about every disease you can imagine shows up as a low copper. And so it's really important. So for copper to be activated, though, it requires retinoic acid, which is vitamin A. And that only comes from animal food. And so I thought for the 7 years I was vegan, where was I getting my retinol, right? So retinoic acid, I think there's multiple forms, but there's one called 13-cis retinoic acid. And it's my understanding that that is what allows copper to be loaded into ceruloplasmin. And so free flowing copper in the body can cause issues because it's not bound to the protein it's supposed to be bound to, which is called ceruloplasmin. And that protein can activate in 24 different enzymes. It's got like 1,066 amino acids attached to it. It's got 8 copper atoms inside of it. It's really what I've heard people talk about. It's like the Rife machine of the body. It's pretty fascinating, but you need retinoic acid to load copper into that protein so that it can then go do its job. And so that's why vitamin A, retinol, and copper are so important. Because if you have the copper without the vitamin A, then that copper is not going to be bioavailable. And then you're going to get an HCMA and you say you're copper toxic. But if you have the retinoic acid coming in from retinol animal foods, then you can get that copper loaded. And then you can that will help activate the reticuloendothelial system, which will allow the reduction of iron and oxidative stress. Because when oxidative stress is rising because iron's rising, then the number one mineral to deal with that oxidative stress is magnesium. And we need magnesium because 42% of our metabolic processes require it. There's like 9,000 enzymes. And I think it's like 3,700 of them require magnesium to operate. So now you have oxidative stress rising, and now you don't have any magnesium because you're using it all from the inflammation from our diet and lifestyle. So it's really a complex kind of a system, but it's pretty basic too.
Well, that leads me to asking you, you're no longer a raw vegan. What are you eating, and what does your diet consist of now?
It's pretty, I don't really follow any kind of one type of diet anymore. I like I'll get up and I'll have, the first thing I do is I wake up and I have a bunch of enzymes. I drink like a mason jar full of water, and I have some minerals in the water, and I'll take like 6 or 7 enzymes, not digestive enzymes, but proteolytic enzymes. And then I'll wait a little while. I'll have a couple pieces of fruit. And then after that, I'll have some, maybe I'll have some oatmeal or some eggs or something like that. Then I'll have some coffee, just basic sensible diet. And then for lunch, I might have a turkey sandwich, something like that. And then for dinner, I might have some beef or, something of that nature, or a smoothie. But it's a lot more basic than it used to be. But I take my supplements, and I try to eat on time, and eat at the right times. And so so that's basically it. Yeah.
So what's funny is that I was talking to a client that's a vegan this morning, and I said, everyone out there, whether they're vegan or carnivore or keto, they're so hell bent on staying strict with their diet because that is their identity. And
Yeah.
there's some days that I eat a vegan diet. There's some days that I eat a carnivore diet. There's some days my body's asking for different foods. And your body's also going to thrive on different foods when you're in your 20s versus your 40s versus your 70s, and whether you're female or male, and depending on your hormonal balance, depending on your activity level. And, all 5 members of my family went through this whole DNA test with Terry Cochran, and she pinpointed the healthy wrong foods that we were all eating for our own specific DNA. And here I was feeling like I was eating all the right foods, and these vegetables were making me really bloated and blocking my detoxification pathways. Now, fast forward, I've healed a lot, and some of those foods I can now eat in moderation. And so it's really taught me that you should not be identifying with one strict way of eating, and truly be more intuitive with your body and listen. And there's a lot more out there that we should be doing. I think you and I both would promote whole foods and get rid of the vegetable seed oils, get rid of the refined sugars, get rid of anything in a package. And I would much rather my client eat a big sweet potato than a ketogenic protein bar,
Yeah.
something that's packaged and full of the wrong types of fats. Okay, so there's the diet, and we only have a few. I can't even believe it. I knew this was going to happen. We're going to need like 7 hours with you, Justin. I want to touch on your kids, because last time we talked, you didn't have kids, and having twin 4-year-old boys, raising them in California, which is a whole nother level of difficulty with 5G and just everything that we are trying to promote, our state is telling us no. So what are the absolute things that you are doing to protect your children, diet, activity wise, parenting wise? I know this is a big conversation, but in the last 8 or so minutes, can you touch on what you're doing with your boys and in parenting them in this world?
Now, I know you can relate to this, right? So before you have kids, you have all these things you think you're going to do, and then once you have kids, it all goes out the window, right?
Yeah.
So some of the things that we're doing is, like, I think more than anything, when it comes to our kids, we're telling them that we love them. We're hugging them as much as we can. We are supporting everything they're doing. But at the same time, I feel like those things for us, for me at least, I have to earn the right to be able to discipline them, to tell them they're doing something wrong. And if I don't do all the aforementioned things, and if I discipline them, then they're just going to get angry. But if they know that I love them because I tell them like 20 times a day and I kiss them, then when I discipline them, it means more. It kind of goes a little bit deeper if I have to tell them to stop doing something. But we do a lot of things. We're really blessed to have such great kids. They're 4-year-old twins, and they're just so great. They're a a ton of energy, which is great. So some of the things we do is we try to just make sure that they're eating organic food. We do mineral supplementation with them. We make sure that they don't look at screens. We block their blue light at night so they're not exposed to blue light at night. And we make sure they get enough sleep. We put minerals in their water, and we do things like that. But it's funny because when you are this way, you realize how much of how we live impacts our health, right? And so you don't want to be just crazy. So I don't want our kids growing up thinking, oh man, my parents were just so nutty and so crazy and out there with their, all this stuff. And so we're trying to just not talk about that kind of stuff and just make it as part of our lifestyle so that we seem as normal as possible. But it's hard for you to really be normal when you understand everything that we understand about health and environment and stuff. So it's just a challenge. And I think we a lot of times just have to forgive ourselves for, okay, we gave them, a packet today that wasn't, the best or whatever. Kids make a ton of hydrochloric acid. They have a ton of ATP. They have very low amounts of iron. So their energy is through the roof and they can burn through. I mean, I don't know about you, but I was raised on the most toxic food ever.
Oh,
So somehow we live, right? So, anything better than that, we're doing good, right? So, but there's a lot of other things that we do, for them, but we're fortunate. They sleep amazing. They still take 2-hour naps. They sleep for 10 hours a night, without waking up. And, we have a lot of stuff in our bedroom, like tools and things like Ken Rolla's Rest Shield. We have that. And so there's a lot of things that we do, but we just try to hug them and kiss them, give them water and tell them we love them and, that kind of thing. So
you touched on something that's really funny, and all I can tell you as a little piece of unsolicited advice as a mom of teenagers is when they're four. When they're 4, you have control, and to really take the time helping them understand the why. Why should I not have the juice box that everyone else at school is having? Why should I not have the Skittles after my turkey sandwich? All of these reasons, because when they connect, because they're connecting the dots, and kids want to learn. They want to know. Most parents just assume that the kid just say no. Well, kids don't want just the no. They want to know why. And when the why is in them, they will then stick with it. And when they then go off to college, or even when they're in junior high and they've got their bicycles and some pocket change and can go to 7-Eleven, they will make a smart move. And I've instilled with the kids. I mean, they definitely say, Mom, you're intense. Mom, give me some room. And I now let them make their choices. I provide organic, amazing meals at home. I'm not a fantastic cook or make anything complicated, but at the same time, they feel the difference, Justin, and they're connecting the dots. And that's what I wanted. When my son went to college last year, 3 days of dorm food, he calls me, he goes, Mom, we have to come up with another solution. And he goes, the food, obviously it's not good for me, but it doesn't even taste good. And so he bought a couple pans, and we have a website of buyranchdirect.com where meat and wild meat, organic meat is sent to him, and it's affordable. And this is what I tell my clients: you can get the meats that you want, the wild fish. And he started cooking. And he cooked every day. He cooked in the dorm room, and of course he wants to feel good, and he feels good. And is he doing what the other kids in college are doing? Yeah, a little bit, but not as much as they are, because he knows how to take care of his body. And so it wasn't necessarily the things that I was pounding into him as a teenager. It was the guidance of the younger years where they had no choice, but then they got the freedoms and they would make their own mistakes. And then we would talk about it. Like Halloween would come and they would feel sick from all the candy. And I would say, oh, that's interesting. Huh? All the things that I've told you is now backfiring. So anyways, but it's a real fine line between restriction and that sense of restriction versus education. So just really,
Yeah.
and what you're doing is amazing as far as instilling the love, 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 and really just that is so impactful. So, I mean, we could talk
Yeah.
about that forever. Well, we just have a couple minutes left. I want to make sure that you have a minute to, is there anything, if you were to tell my audience 3 things that they should be doing every single day starting tomorrow, what would they be?
Oh, wow. I would say, starting tomorrow, I would say get natural sunlight, go out in the sun without sunglasses and shoes on so that you can set your circadian rhythm. Drink mineral rich water and make sleep a priority. But then there's so many other things, right? Forgive your friends, lower your stress levels, hug your family. But as far as like a health kind of base thing, I would say get out in the sun, um, and drink mineral rich water, lots of it, and make sure that sleep is a number one priority because that's so important for your body's detoxification, your lymphatic system, and your brain to detox. So important, and it's stuff that is unrelated to diet. Diet's huge, but it's not the only thing. So yeah, I would say those things, and then lower your stress, enjoy life. I don't really think it has a whole lot to do with food. It does, but my goodness, just enjoy your life, do work you love. Hug your friends and family, spend time doing things that put back into you. If you like to go out and play basketball like I do, or surfing or gardening, whatever it is, do more of that. Enjoy your life more and more because there's so many stressful things to be worried about today. And it's just important to give back to yourself, enjoy yourself. I think that goes way further than food or biohacking or all this kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I don't diminish the importance of hugs because as you're talking, a 30-second hug increases dopamine, and dopamine is that hormone that helps with the stress level, and it impacts your physical
Yeah.
health, your mental health, and so much more. And my kids know, hey, when mom asks for a hug, I need a dopamine hit. And it don't let go before 30 seconds at least. Well,
I love
before
that.
we go, can you tell everybody where they can find you and tell everybody about your academy as well?
Sure. Yeah. So we have our main website is just Extreme Health Radio, and there's links to our social media on there. Instagram. I do a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I don't really use Facebook anymore. I think they needed me to verify something. I don't want to give them too much of my information. So mostly on Instagram and are on iTunes under Extreme Health Radio, and we broadcast. There's one new show a week that comes out Sunday night, and then we have 700 shows in our backlog. So we recycle those 6 days a week. So some of our best of episodes we put back if you're subscribed on iTunes. And then our academy is a private membership academy where people pay per month, and there's a forum in there. I'm live every Friday morning on there as well. And we partnered with Dr. John Bergman, and he's live once a month inside the academy as well. And so we do a lot of live sessions, a lot of workshops, a lot of live events, and there's a forum in there along with courses and workshops and stuff like that. But the best place is just our website, and then you can find us further from there, I think.
Amazing. Well, Justin, I'm so grateful for you and all that you're doing. And, if anyone is not following Justin on Instagram, you have to follow him just to see how cute the adorable 4-year-old boys are. They should be in commercials. But thanks again for joining us. And thank you everybody else for joining us today. If I can help you with your health issues, you can contact me directly through the website, acceleratedhealthproducts.com. I'm happy to put together a protocol for you. And also join the free group coaching. There is no downside. It's a great community of like-minded people, and we all help each other. I post videos and articles daily, and I'm there to answer your questions. There is no downside. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and my YouTube channel, and over 100 channels, including iHeartRadio, iTunes, Stitcher, Pandora, whatever podcast platform you subscribe to under Accelerated Health Radio. Join us every week live at 1 p.m. Pacific time, and you can use coupon W4HC20 for 20% off site-wide. Thanks again, and have a great week.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Justin.